Welcome to the Long Range Pursuit Podcast, presented by Gunworks, where we learn about and share long-range shooting techniques, science, and gear.
Well, new episode of Long Range Pursuit, a little different format. We've got Brice from PEAX Equipment, and Brice, you're the founder.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, Brice Bishop. So you founded PEAX when?
2019 is when we actually launched, so we're a fairly new brand. Yeah.
It's amazing how long it takes.
I know.
So in this podcast, what I wanted to do was I want to learn some more about your company.
Okay.
And you're down here at Gunworks, and you've got the tour. It's like, if there's anything I can share about Gunworks, we'll do that as well. So
Sure.
I think this will be fun. I actually love talking about my business.
Okay.
And I suspect most founders have that same attitude, right? It's something that you're willing to sacrifice everything for, so you have a lot of passion for it and a lot of drive.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was really impressed with the 50-cent tour that Jason gave me. It's pretty impressive what you guys have built down here. So
we just had a Christmas party last night, and you always have some look backs and some look forwards, when you get the whole crew together like that. And Haijo is one of my most valued partners and employee. Okay. And he maybe you'll meet him here, but he came on board almost a decade ago. Right. And almost all the really smart technology stuff that we do has his fingerprints on it.
Really?
From like, you don't realize this in like when you look at the marketplace, but most electronics are like OEM sourced, where you just let some manufacturer who has specialty just build your circuit boards and write your firmware and stuff. When you look at our products, most of our electronics and smart products, we design the circuit boards.
Oh, wow.
We write the firmware and the software and do the testing and the sourcing and manufacturing. And it is extremely complex and intense. And we wouldn't be able to do it without.
What's his background?
He's got a PhD in mathematics and electrical engineering, undergrad, and just super talented. And then worked for a company called Tracking Point, which was doing a smart scope product 15 years ago, way before their time. But they did some really cool stuff.
Yeah, when we were building our backcountry duo headlamp, we had a taste of all of that, nothing to the extent that you guys do, but just getting the programming of the circuit board to where it was drawing the right amount from the battery so that the battery could last a long time, and then get the output that we wanted, and then all the different program settings. Like, it was a chore. It took us 2 years to really just dial in the circuit board to do everything that we wanted.
And you contracted the engineering?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So it was a task, but the outcome was, far superior than anything else out there for the hunting industry, at least. Yeah. So
we were, I was joking last night that was the first time Haijo has ever been able to come to a Christmas party.
Really?
In 10 years. And we were talking about, what we looked like 10 years ago, where we're at. Sure. We were like in 3,500 square feet. Like, that's the size of our kitchen.
Yeah.
And 20 employees, and every machine we could squeeze in that building. When you would go to there was one bathroom, but when you'd have to go to the bathroom, you'd walk sideways between some machines to get out to go.
That's funny, because that's about where we're at as a brand, right? Is we're just packed in this smaller space, and everybody's just working around each other, and we're just trying to find places to put.
Those are good times. We just went to Montana Knife a few weeks ago. They were part of a collaboration we did on a limited edition.
Yeah. And
it had that same vibe. Yeah. Like, they built this building just a few years ago, but they're just bursting.
I know. Josh and Brandon over there have just done a phenomenal job with that business, and I can't believe how fast they're growing. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me the one paragraph pitch of who is PEAX Equipment?
Yeah. So, we call that our elevator pitch, right? Because you got to be able to tell somebody in an elevator ride. So we are a backcountry hunting equipment brand that focuses on building equipment specific for the hunter. A lot of our products people usually have to go to like a REI or something to get them. And we just saw a huge need that backcountry hunters had, where that equipment was failing them because it was primarily built around like lightweight through hiker type products that just wouldn't withstand the conditions that a backpack hunter would put them through. So our position as a brand is that we're building equipment specifically designed for the backpack hunter and doing it in a way that's going to help them really thrive in that backcountry experience.
What would be, I was just trying to picture in my mind the two different customers that you just described.
Yeah.
And where I kind of ended up was, I have one hunter who goes off the grid.
Yep.
Goes into the rugged spaces
Yep.
where the grizzly bears are going to get you.
Yep.
And then I have a backpacker who maybe works the trail systems to see the beautiful sights.
Yeah, exactly.
If that would be a way of describing why this person might want a more rugged
dirt
set
bowl
of equipment.
Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly, the need we found. How this whole thing started, my brother and I were on a backpack hunt, for elk, and we were 6 or 7 miles in, and before the trip, he was like, "You're going to want a pair of trekking poles for this trip." And I was like, "I don't need trekking poles. They're for sissies," right? Like, I was of that mind frame. But he's like, "No, you really need to get some." So we actually, on the way out of town, swung by a Walmart. I went in, bought the cheapest pair of trekking poles they had on the shelf, because I was like, I just need a pair for, whatever. And we were back in there, and we were going down some pretty steep country. And on the way out, I just took a normal step down off of kind of a boulder and put that trekking pole out to brace myself, and it bent right in half, like 90-degree bend. And it was so bent that I couldn't even straighten it to use it again. It would have just snapped. And so the whole rest of the pack out, we just were talking about trekking poles, and we were like, there's got to be a better pole for a hunter out there. And we got back, and I started like Googling, there's a million different trekking poles on the market, and all of them were the same. There was nothing that really seemed to be built or marketed to hunters.
I think I see this a lot in product, and
Yeah.
might be susceptible to this as well, which is you build products to compete with your competitors, and you don't build products to fulfill a need for your customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see that's how a lot of these products end up with this sameness. I had one guy that used to work for me, and we were talking about the optics industry and specifically European, and essentially they just bring out a new feature, and it's basically a dick kicking contest. They just kick each other in the dick, and then they make something, and then they make something, and then and they just go around and around and around, and so you end up with this sameness in product categories. I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's what we ran into. And so, I was working in the financial services industry back then, and I loved hunting, have been a lifelong hunter, but this conversation that my brother and I had on the way out really just, I don't know why I couldn't let go of it. So I got back, and I just was like, I just want to see if I can start tinkering around and see if I can build a trekking pole that would withstand the
What year was
conditions. This was in 2016 or 17 when I started doing that.
So two-year run-up.
Yeah. So I kept building prototypes, and we'd go out and we'd break them right away. And I sent prototypes to, Randy Newberg, and he broke them right away, and Corey Jacobson, like guys like that. And eventually we kept breaking them in that bottom third of the trekking pole. And we wanted a lightweight carbon fiber pole, but we just were learning that carbon fiber could not withstand the rocks and everything else that you'd stick that pole down into. It just would compromise that carbon too much, and then it would just snap, just like an arrow does, right? If an arrow gets compromised. And so we were talking with a buddy in town, and we were just kind of brainstorming ideas, and he's like, well, what if we just like did a hybrid construction where carbon was in the areas where it was protected, but we used a more durable material where it's going to get beat up on the bottom. And so we kind of started playing with that, and we settled on an aerospace grade 70-75 aluminum for that bottom section of the trekking pole.
If you go look at the material properties for that, it's an impressive, it's a really impressive material.
Yeah, it is. It's super durable. And
we use a lot of different materials. So 70-75, we use some 17-4 stainless, some 416 stainless.
Gotcha.
So you start looking at that 70-75, it can approach some of the material properties of a stainless steel.
Yeah, it's an impressive material. And so we did that, and then we took the trekking poles out on a bear hunt, and we didn't break them.
Well, what's the shape of the bottom of is it a tube?
It's a tube, but then it kind of narrows down in its diameter so that it can fit a tip that goes over the top of it.
So is that tube that you can't extrude 70-75? So how are they forming the tube? That's an interesting manufacturing.
Yeah, I'm not the engineer with all of that.
Oh, I have that problems.
You're in
I have a problem. Yeah. I'm trying to see end to end how that comes about, because it's not a workable material, and so you see in a lot of cheaper products that are using aluminum tubes, it is not 70-75 because you can't just make an extrusion die and just squirt through there. You actually have to make this a different way.
Yeah,
it's probably it could be formed and welded.
I think it's formed and welded, because if you look at it really close, you can actually see the seam line that runs down.
Yeah, that would be the only way you could do that, because it's or machined from billet, which would be
it's not that though. It is a sheet. I think that's just rolled.
Yeah,
because it is hollow. Yeah, right. And so
does anybody else? There's a lot of aluminum trekking poles.
Yeah,
does anybody else use 70-75?
There are some brands that use 70-75, but they're doing it over the whole pole. And right, so the thing we were trying to solve was that those poles are pretty heavy, right? So carbon poles really light, right?
Yeah,
aluminum poles a little heavier. And so we wanted to make a lightweight pole, but also have the durability. And so we're able to save about 30% of the weight when we have this hybrid construction, but still maintain the strength and durability that's needed for a backpack hunter.
Yeah, I've tore up some hiking poles, so I identify with what you're sharing there. The looked like you had two different mechanisms on the poles. One of them was traditional telescoping.
Yep.
And then you had another one that was a more simplistic.
So the Z pole, it's tethered through the middle with a stainless steel cable.
Yeah.
And then it's on a spring-loaded action to where when you extend it and then you just keep extending it, then a snap button pops out and secures it in place. So everything's tethered together. The benefit of those poles is that they can break down to about 14 inches. And so they're highly packable, right? Whereas the telescoping ones, they're about 24 inches when they're collapsed.
What about weight difference between the two?
They're about 1.5 ounces different in weight.
So not that.
So you can't really tell if you were holding them in your hands, right? You'd have a hard time telling. But for those guys that are still pretty weight conscious, 1.5 ounces here and 1 ounce.
Well, size is important too.
Yeah, and
especially some of the stuff you get into hunting wise. You got a barrel that's sticking out, or a buttstock that's sticking down, or a pole. I mean, it's catching on branches and trees because you're not on that trail, or it's catching on a rock. You're trying to slip down a chute.
Yeah. So
size matters there.
Yeah. And a lot of guys just have personal preference, right? The Z pole versus the telescoping. I will say that the majority of hunters prefer the telescoping type because it's just more versatile. They can use it from that 24-inch collapsed height. Maybe they're sitting on a rock and they're glassing. They want to put their binos on top of it to stabilize it a little bit. They'll use it to pitch their tarps and teepees and things like that, where those Z poles can only be used once they're fully extended and secured in place. So the telescoping one's a little more versatile product for a hunter, whereas a backpacker really likes those Z poles because they're so compact, and when they're not hiking around, they can just fold them up, put them in their pack, and they're just out of the way.
So you launched PEAX equipment in 2019 with a
single trekking pole. Yep, a single product, and we ran that product for about a year before we really decided to do anything else. I mean, at that point, it was like kind of a side hustle for me, a side gig. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I partnered with Brian Call on a project, and he went to New Zealand with Ryan Lampers, and they took a pair of the poles with them. And they came back and they were like, we should have snapped these things 10 times and we didn't. And so they're like, this is a viable product. So we launched in August of 2019 as just that single trekking pole. And then I started, networking and meeting some people. And David Brinker was one person that I got introduced to. And he was the third employee at Sitka. And he started to run all their marketing stuff. And he had then left Sitka to start a real estate company out in Oregon with his dad. And I met him at a trade show, and he was interested in coming on our board. And the first question he really asked me was, well, where do you see this company going, and what do you really want to be? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to sell trekking poles. And he was like, that's not good enough, right? You actually, if you really want to be a legitimate brand, you have to do way more than just sell trekking poles. And so he was really instrumental, along with some other guys, in helping us to kind of develop that brand DNA of who do we want to be? Where do we want to go? Where can we see us taking this business? And we actually rebranded from Sissy Sticks, which was the initial name of the trekking poles, to PEAX in 2020.
That was a good move.
Yeah. And it was, for that first year, it was great because it was so disruptive in the hunting space. And a lot of hunters are kind of more of a macho personality. And so the name was really catchy and disruptive.
I understand it.
Springboarded.
I used to use them and get called the same thing.
Yeah.
But I look now, like, I haven't been doing a lot of mountain hunting the last 4 or 5 years. I got a terrible knee. I'm working on a knee replacement. It's protecting your future ability. It's not about I need the pole to get up the mountain.
Yeah.
It's about creating margins of safety around your body so that you can use it hard.
That's right.
Into the future.
That's right. Yeah. The science actually shows that, like, if you use trekking poles, you reduce the impact on your from your hip to your knees to your ankle by up to like 40% when going downhill when you have trekking poles.
Yeah.
And so for longevity, if you're not using them, you're just shortening the window of opportunity that you have to do backpack hunting.
Yep. It's not about I need it to do this. It's about I want to do this
forever. Yeah. As long as I can.
Well, I noticed I haven't had a chance to use any of your stuff, so we'll have to get connected. And
we'll get you hooked up.
But it looks to me like you are systematically taking on one piece of gear. I see a tent, I see a sleeping bag, a headlamp, poles. So you're just taking on the stove, taking on these pieces of gear, and you bringing them up, developing them, putting in the manufacturing systems, and then putting them in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, our approach, from the early stages, once we decided we were going to be more than just a trekking pole company, was how do we build a system of products that work together in the backcountry to actually help you stay out longer, which ultimately is what increases your odds of success, right? The thing that ruins your odds.
I gotta say something. I think my company is developing the entirely opposite set of products. The whole goal of our stuff is you get out there and you can take advantage of the first opportunity and you can get out of there quicker.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these guys that are serious backpack hunters are willing to pass those first opportunities, waiting for that right mature animal to appear.
Sure.
And they might have to be in the backcountry a minimum of 10 days, up to 14 days. Some of these guys are out 3, even 4 weeks at a time. And so to live that long in the backcountry, you've got to have a system of products that work together to keep you comfortable, that has the protection that you need and is durable enough to last that long of a trip. And so that's really kind of our 3 pillars when we design product: comfort, protection, and durability. Weight is really like the last thing that we look at. We know there's a weight threshold that we have to meet, but those 3 other things are so much more important to keeping you on the mountain and making you successful that's really our primary focus. And weight, everybody talks about weight, but when you really ask somebody what's most important to them, they'll say something else.
I have the chasing lightweight to me is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, me too.
And you can imagine on a rifle system, you can very easily create a product that doesn't achieve its primary goal,
Yeah,
which is to put a bullet where it's supposed to go.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, really quickly. Like, and the tease is, you're designing a product to carry rather than a product to shoot.
Yeah.
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 No, I'm with you. We call that the right weight.
The right weight. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. It's like our sleeping bag, for example. It's anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces, which doesn't seem like a lot. It's 2 to 4 ounces heavier than the real ultralight sleeping bags that are in the same class using the same materials. But the features that we put into our bag, like the arm-free ports that allow you to get your arms out of the bag without unzipping and losing your core heat, that there's a little bit of a weight penalty to that, but the end result is it keeps you in the game longer, keeps you on the hunt longer. And so we're willing to kind of sacrifice a little bit of weight, not a lot, but a little bit of weight, just to make sure that you have a better experience on the mountain when you're out there.
Yeah. A usable feature.
A usable feature. Yeah.
No, I actually don't like running a company. It's not my thing.
It's hard.
I like product.
Yeah.
I live for creating product and solving product problems.
Yeah. You and me both.
Yeah.
When I first started PEAX, you had to be the jack of all trades, right? And probably the same for you. You had to wear the marketing hat and wear the sales hat and wear the product hat. You had to do all the things, the finances, all that stuff. But as we've kind of started to grow and build out teams, the one thing I haven't let go of at all is product, because I just love working with our designers and our product developers in that process. It's so important.
I think the products that a company has, in my opinion, like there's marketing and advertising and the fancy photos and all that stuff. And I always feel that's fairly superficial brand.
Sure.
Like it maybe even a little artificial.
Yep.
But the products that you have, those are substantive. Those can't be faked.
Correct.
And I've always connected the product that you have, to what the real brand is, the brand identity.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important as a founder to be connected closely to product.
Yeah, I think that's where your brand and our brand are really aligned. Like, we have always positioned ourselves in the premium space, right? Like, we're not willing to ever cut a corner just to get something to market.
Yeah.
Our stove for our teepee, for example, we spent over 3 years, and it seems so simple, right? A little titanium box that you should be able to just stamp and make go. 3 years, and we had to work with several design for manufacturing engineers to perfect the design before it could ever be made. We tried so many times and kept cracking titanium sheets with the way that, we envisioned it working, and it just was never working. And we'd get close and we were like, well, we could go to market with this, but it's just not quite there. And so we would just say, you know what? The right time to go to market is when we have the right product.
Yeah. No, we got caught letting something go to the market early last year on a bipod.
Oh, wow.
And we worked on it for 2.5 years plus, right? And thought we had it pretty dialed in, and put it in the marketplace and immediately identified a failure mode.
Wow.
And I think we replaced 1,000 units.
Wow.
We just swapped out replacements, but it put a 6-month probably delay in that, and really impacted that product's.
But that was the right thing to do as a brand, right?
Oh, for sure.
When you find issues like that, you just take care of them. So you build that loyalty.
We had some pretty good learnings out of there.
Sure.
And one of them was test it to death.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Budget the appropriate amount of time throughout that development cycle to do the testing before it can move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the hardest learning experiences, but best opportunities for our engineering team and our product team to really start to create a system and an ethos for like how we develop and bring a product to market.
Yeah. Super critical.
It's very frustrating to spend that time.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. And we work with a lot of brand partners that are out there that want to see us bring stuff to market quicker. They'll test stuff for us and they're like, when are you going to release this?
Yeah, let's go.
And we're like, it's just not ready yet. And they, sometimes they get a little frustrated because we keep sending them the next prototype to test.
Well, there's a big difference between a prototype and a product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you've got to bridge that gap of manufacturing.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming that you are not vertically integrated. You're not sewing and stamping yet, but you're doing assembly and you're doing some verification stuff.
Yeah, so all of our cut and sew and assembly and all that stuff, it's all outside of, our four walls. But every product that comes in the door, we're looking at.
Yeah.
It's especially in those early stages. Our warehouse guys used to get so frustrated because I'd tell them, every single trekking pole, you have to check every single lock.
Yeah.
You need to make sure it works.
Trust but verify, right?
Exactly.
No, and I think if you think about one of our responsibilities as like founders that are serving customers with a business, is you got to look out for the customer.
Yeah.
And the goal is you want to create this really high quality product.
Yep.
But we actually have this responsibility to bring it to the marketplace at a price point that is achievable.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you have to be able to balance the cost of the product, and especially a smaller company and we did the same thing, is you start by leaning on other companies that have attained manufacturing prowess or vertical integration, and using the economies of scale that they have.
That's right. Yeah.
And when you're small and young, you don't have a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
And so even though they're making some of the money, right, in the supply chain, you're nimble and small. And so that's how a smaller company stays competitive.
Yeah.
But as you grow bigger, right, overhead starts building. If you're in Bozeman, like when you go to move to that next building, you're going to have this hit to your bottom line.
Yep.
And one of the ways that you can continue to bring the products at the right price to customers is to start, your volumes are getting big enough that you'll start integrating some of those manufacturing processes. And when the time's right, those things come in, and it's a delicate game of balance that we have to play.
It's definitely a balance, but super important. We're in the thick of that right now as a brand, where we're just bursting at the seams in our space. And I'm working with our current landlord, who's a developer, to build a new building that'll be 3 times the size of what we are. And we're looking at it and we're going, is this even big enough? Right? Like it's
not.
It's a stretch for us right now.
Whatever you think, it's not.
But we're like, man, if we really want to do everything that we're talking about, is that going to work for us? And those are stressful decisions as a founder that you have to make. But right now we're really fortunate. We're working with some of and I'm sure you guys went through this too, just the best factories that make some of the components that we use, and they're just phenomenal partners. And
there's nothing wrong with that. Like I've got an iPhone here.
Right.
Apple didn't make this. Foxconn made this.
That's right.
Right. They've done the same thing. They're integrated with and work with.
Sure.
You look at one of the clothing brands that I have affinity to is Kuyu.
Yeah.
Like I'm a walking billboard for Kuyu.
Nice.
Like
you got them on right now. Yep.
I think my underwear have Kuyu on it, right? Like they don't have a sew house.
No.
Their expertise is in product development,
development.
They actually run a very lean operation.
Yeah.
Like it is not intense in overhead. They're very efficient in distribution models, and I actually think it's a wonderful business. I've always admired how that was put together.
Yeah, and that's we're very similar to that.
Yeah.
We staff designers and product developers, and they do all the work of like conceptualizing the products and engineering the products and things like that. We just haven't taken that leap yet into actual manufacturing.
it's only a required step when it's necessary to continue to serve the customer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Other than that, it is
You bet.
extemporaneous. I've struggled because I have a real hard-on for vertical integration,
Oh, yeah.
like big time.
Yeah, I could tell that back there.
Oh, yes. No, it's a problem. And for me, it's tell me why I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And if that argument's not strong, then I'm doing it.
You're all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where we ran into problems, if you look at kind of some of our big milestones of growth, was we brought on an ERP system in 2019, and
Okay.
it almost put us out of business.
Oh, really?
Like it was a struggle bus.
Wow.
And I think that's very common for a lot of people when they make that big transition. But
Yeah.
we have a very, very high mix of product. Like at one point,
Yeah.
you could make 4 billion different configurations.
It's free.
And from those years of 2019 until just this year, we would build on an average of, like, 1 year it was 45 days, 1 year it was 60 days, but the average delivery time on a custom-made order product with over 4 billion SKUs was in that less than 2-month period.
Wow.
And where we were just absolutely getting slaughtered was we're trying to build in 2 months, but we have vendors that would sometimes take 6 months to provide product.
Yeah.
Like we got an action design, and I have this CNC shop making this and this shop making this. And, we at one point we weren't making stocks, but we onboarded that. So we would have a stock guys over here that might want 10 months on an order.
Yeah.
It's like that stuff just did not
brutal.
work.
Yeah.
And so we were forced to bring in those systems to get control of the supply chain so that we could serve the customer.
Yeah.
And a really nice side benefit is we get better quality.
Sure.
Kind of a funny story about the barrel. I'm just thinking barrels particularly. Like we brought barrels on over the last, oh shucks, we've been working on it for 4 years probably.
Okay.
But you think about barrels, you're going to go build a custom gun,
Yeah.
and your thought is, okay, well, I'm going to go get like the best barrel that there is. Pick one of the brands, right?
Right.
And you go get one of their barrels and you build a gun on it. You don't realize that that's not a little boutique shop.
Yeah.
Those are high volume, mass production shops that just crank one. And you think in our shop, we actually build a barrel. We shoot every single barrel.
Yeah,
that
Jason
we make.
was showing me the room that you guys can just go right from assembly into testing. That was incredible.
Yeah, every single barrel gets shot.
Yeah.
So having the ability to either make adjustments to what we're doing or to strictly monitor quality.
That's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's intense that way. And I
Yeah.
really like the benefits that we've received from vertically integrating. And we're pretty much down to a Swiss machine to make pins, screws, and we'll have all of our parts.
Wow.
I don't know if he took you back into the engineering room at all.
Not really.
We've got this new product that we're launching in January, and I have to lead guys very carefully, because if I told them really what I want from the beginning, I would probably have a revolt. So I start them down a path that's like, this is really attainable, and I take them to it's kind of like a guide does when you're hunting. It's like, let's just get up to this rise, and then there's always another rise. Well, I do the same thing, but I got them to build a trigger in-house this year.
Wow.
So we were going down this path, and I just waited for the right opportunity to pounce, and I kind of put that in there at the time where they would accept that as, oh, this might actually be easier to solve the problem by doing this. But even the trigger is something that we're making in-house.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And taking a lot of those variables out of the equation for you guys has probably increased your efficiency and all that kind of stuff. I remember we started right on, the front end of COVID, right?
Great.
Like we were barely a year old, and then COVID hit, and supply chains just came to a screeching halt, right? And so things that we were able to get in a 60-day period, now they were saying 7, 8, 9 months. And as a young brand, we were like, dude, this is detrimental to us.
Well, yeah, you can't pivot quick
And-
enough.
And the reality is our business actually exploded during COVID because everybody was social distancing, right? And they wanted to go hiking in the hills, and they wanted trekking poles to go hiking. And so it was really difficult for us that first couple years as we were trying to navigate through the supply chain of all of that. And just, we made it through, and we grew a lot in those first few years. But I had a lot of sleepless nights just stressing over how to get material.
We work with some really great people. Leopold's one of them.
Yeah.
They're an awesome company.
Yeah,
They make a great product. And when they put together the Mark V product, which our requirement is a first focal plane rifle scope. So we won't build a rifle system with second focal plane.
Gotcha.
Because sooner or later it's going to cost a customer a shot, because it's so hard to get the minute of angle subtensions right with variable power for the shot conditions. So we started this about, 8 years ago. I fought that battle. It took me 2 years to get everybody on board with it. And we've had to turn away business from customers that are like, I need second focal plane. Even though we explain it, we try to teach them that. It's like they're stuck on that.
Yeah.
They brought that Mark V product. I'm like, I want in.
Nice.
Like, I want to use that scope product, support USA manufacturing. I love it. So we brought that on board and made it a pretty significant part of our shooting system sales. And when they were set up and running, we were able to procure in like a sub 2 month window.
Wow.
Right. So you got a safety stock amount, and then the deliveries, and for a couple of years, it's like they're just clockwork.
It's money.
And this last year they launched that Mark IV product.
Yep.
And
I just put that on one of my.
They're so back ordered. They're so behind. It's actually disrupted our supply chain. And for us, we have the system, right? So we procure, we build, we do this, and I think we're carrying like $12 million in inventory right now to be able to service. And a couple little disruptions, and that 12 million can be 14 million in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
Or you have a little disruption, and now you can't flush through finished products because we can't send a gun and the ammo and all the stuff that goes with it if we don't have the scope that goes on it.
That's right.
And so we've been fighting some disruption there, and lead times getting longer, and I don't think that's insurmountable. There's this transition period. All you, as a business operator, you just need to know what the rules are.
Right.
So if it's going to go to 7 month lead times, just tell me 7 months ago.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'll deal with it, right? And we'll flex. It's the surprises and changes.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
So we've been trying to get sorted out there with Leopold and make that happen. But it's tough, and it's awesome to see people succeeding and winning, and to be with partners that are
they're
successful.
Impressive. Yeah, they're an impressive operation. We know several people over there, and they're just good people too. Just fun people to work with.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, one gal over there, Vicky Peters, she works on product. I've known her forever. I guess she's retiring. We were doing one of these.
I think I saw something about that actually.
About Vicky?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. But we're doing we have these hosted hunts that we do.
Okay.
So Africa or Argentina or New Zealand or whatever, and we'll take customers with us, and we'll go do a hunt together. And
nice.
So we have this hunt over in Russia we're going to go do and kill moose and bear and snow sheep, maybe caribou.
Where at? Like Kamchatka area?
Oh, yeah. And so it's with our friends Wade Lemon Hunting.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're going to go over there and do this. And we're like, okay, well, let's get a couple more spots and let's bring some people with us. And we threw an email together and got like 150 people in an hour that wanted to go.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And she was one of them. She's like, hey, I want to go do a hunt with you. That would have been really cool to do that. But it looks like her schedule's not going to work. But
well, I got to tell you, I was, before we started, we were kind of talking about that Texas hunt that I went and did, and it's the first time I've actually had any experience with your brand at all. And my buddy guides for Perennial Outfitting down there, and we wanted to do an odd-ad hunt, and we're going to give an odd-ad hunt away. And so we're like, well, we need to go do an odd-ad hunt, and we need to film it and all that kind of stuff. And so we scheduled it, we booked it. He's like, you don't need to bring a rifle. Just come. We've got rifles. I was like, okay. I was a little apprehensive to go down without, my own gun. And we got to the ranch and we got there a little bit late. So the next morning he's like, before we go to the other ranch, you need to make sure you can actually shoot a rifle. And so we went to their little shooting range and, it wasn't I think it was a 400-yard shot or something. But it just took one bullet and we hit the gong and he's like, you're good. And I, just off of that one shot, I had so much confidence in the weapon, just the way it reacted, never shooting it before, the way it felt. I was like, oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We can go.
It was the right weight.
Yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. There you go. And so when we actually got on the mountain and got the opportunity, there was no hesitation, right? It was awesome. And I made a great shot on what you'd shoot a deer or an elk, but I didn't realize that oddadge are actually supposed to shoot in the shoulder because their vitals are forward, an African type animal. But I had, I was dead right behind the shoulder and I could watch after I shot that bullet hit exactly where I was aiming. I mean, it perfectly where I was aiming. I had to do a follow-up shot after that, but I just was so impressed with the gun and how it operated and the confidence that I had that I came back and I'm like, wow, I really need to look into Gunworks a lot more than I have.
I could wax eloquent about the reasons why your experience was good with that shot. There's little subtle things with stock design and the right weight and how we put systems together. But we're not very good about talking about why a Gunworks product is different.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's a challenge for me as a founder is being so consumed with what's the next thing that we forget that a big part of our role is to make sure the marketplace understands what we're doing and why our products are better.
Yeah, the education side of any product-based business is often overlooked, but super critical.
So how are you guys doing your marketing? How's that set up?
We do a lot of performance-based marketing. We don't have a lot of the restrictions that you guys do.
I don't even want to hear it. That pisses me off.
Because we're just like trekking poles and headlamps and teepees and sleeping bag. It's like we don't get flagged a lot. And so a lot of our marketing is performance-based digital advertising, which is huge for us because we're able to hit a demographic that a lot of other hunting brands can't. There's just as many hunters on social media as as any other demographic. And so, guys like you struggle with that because if you'd tried to put an ad about a rifle on Facebook, they're going to just take it down immediately, right? But we don't really have that problem. Every once in a while, one of our videos or a photo has a guy with a rifle in his pack or something. And every once in a while it'll get flagged. But usually when we try to fight that, we're successful. So a lot of performance-based marketing. But the thing that's most effective is actually just our email marketing. We've accumulated a pretty healthy size email list. And we can say whatever we want in an email, right? We can't say whatever we want on social media or Google or whatever else. But in emails, we can say whatever we want to our customer. We can speak to them in the language that they understand.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like email's our strongest opportunity for marketing.
Yeah.
And we could do so much better, I believe. But I'm not sure that we're immune to manipulation by
those email,
those crazies. Yeah, like I've got a few different email accounts and they're subscribed to Gunworks, and I've got the emails. Some of the Gunworks emails will show up in my spam folder.
Really? Yeah.
It's like and I've never marked a Gunworks email as spam.
Yeah.
So even just that deliverability piece.
Yeah, you're probably right because I do the same thing, right? I have like 3 or 4 emails signed up for all of our newsletters. I want to see how they hit the inboxes. And every once in a while, if in the subject line we say, win such and such hunting equipment,
Mm-hmm.
it'll wind up in spam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think even on the email side, I don't think we're completely in
Yeah.
control.
Probably not. But it is our best way that we've found to communicate with our customers. And a lot of that then drives them directly to our website, where we can put whatever we want on our website, or our YouTube channel where we have all kinds of content for instructional videos and things like that. So, most of our effort is put into things that we can own and control. But we are fortunate to be able to do a lot of performance-based marketing with digital ads.
After I went up and met the team up there at Montana Knife, I started paying a little attention there, and
Yeah.
I can't figure out how they're doing this, but
Yeah.
everybody talks about them.
It's, their drop model and creating that hype around drops has been big for them. But you're right. I don't know. Brandon he must just be a genius at marketing. I don't know, but it's been pretty phenomenal.
I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he had Mike Rowe on there, and this is an older
oh, yeah.
podcast, but freaking Mike Rowe brings up
I know.
Scott and Montana Knife. I'm like,
I
man,
know.
they are just absolutely
Crushing it.
yeah.
And I call it the Yeti Effect. They are in that segment of the industry that everybody, whether you're a hunter, a fisher, a chef, whoever, everybody loves knives, right? And so they can penetrate a lot of different industries with their product
Mhm.
and speak to a lot of different customers and fulfill a lot of those needs that the rest of us are pretty niche-y, right?
Yeah, I'm super niche.
Yeah, you're super niche. We're pretty niche-y just because we're so focused.
Well,
on
it's a
hunting, but
teepee and a stove. That's not the broad
yeah,
backcountry camping arrangement,
right.
product.
Yeah.
That is pretty
It's
pretty
niche-y.
specific.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's pretty awesome. So,
I had a Kafaro a long time ago, a teepee.
no, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that love their Kafaros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where is PEAX going next? What are we going to see?
Yeah.
What are we going to see? What's the next area?
Yeah. So we feel like our runway is in the equipment space, right? Like anything that a backpack hunter has to put in his pack, that's what we want to own. And we want to build it for hunters.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
so-
cool.
yeah.
I always say anything that is part of that shooting system that touches that weapon, I want to
You
own
want
it.
to own. Yeah.
So bags, bipods, optics,
Yeah.
ammunition, suppressors, you name it. We build all of that.
Yeah. So the backpack space is pretty crowded, right? There's a lot of backpack companies out there. There's a lot of really good backpack companies out there. So we don't know if we'll ever try to build a backpack just because there's so many good options available out there. And we have a lot of friends in the backpack space, Stone Glacier and Initial Ascent and EXO, a lot of companies that just make a real nice pack. And so we're not really focused on the actual backpack side of it. It's more about the equipment that a guy needs, put in the pack to go on a hunt.
I think it's important to make product moves based on a real passion to do something special.
Yeah.
Just like you're talking about your sleeping bag,
Yeah.
or the tent. It's like you can go find a million tents.
Yeah.
That big Agnes copper spur, guess what? There's 10 people that make the same thing, right?
Yep.
So you can go find a bunch of tents, but you've got a tent that has a very specific application
Yeah.
and works differently, behaves differently.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you can't bring a product that offers something unique, so you're just straight up Me Too product,
Yep.
that does nothing for me. And in fact, I have a hard time with that modality.
Yeah, same. And our designer is really that way. He's like, I'd never want to build just a Me Too product. And so like the way that our trekking poles, instead of like being the center pole of the TP, cross up in the top of it to act as like a cross bracing structure for wind.
Yeah.
So unique. Nothing else out there like it. Very disruptive. And that's just what we've committed to as a brand. Similar to, you guys, is just we always want to do things not only at a premium level, but different than everybody else is doing
Better.
it, and better.
Yeah.
And be really disruptive about it.
We created an engineering-based approach to a rifle stock design in our first launch product.
Wow.
And basically sat down and said, okay, here's what a rifle stock is. Here, when you put it in the system, here's what happens,
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
Here's the things that we can change to manipulate what's going on, and created what we called a set of functional design geometries that have kind of held true through all of the stocks that we've ever created.
Wow.
And for the first 10 years, we didn't even talk about it. We just kept our lips shut and just
The secret sauce
Didn't
behind the gun.
and you could go, the Me Too guys essentially would just go buy a Macmillan A3, right?
Yeah.
Drop a Remington in there, and it's like, that's a long range gun. It has the look of a long range gun.
Yeah.
And I remember a customer bought a gun from us, and he wanted, this is back when we would do stupid shit because we were hungry, right?
Yeah.
He wanted a 338 Lapua,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He wanted a hunting gun because he thought for some reason elk were bulletproof.
Yeah.
But we built it as a sporter, so a smaller gun. We did it in our LR1000 stock. And he's like, I want another one, and I want you to build it in a Macmillan A3. And so we built these two guns, same barrel weights, same cartridge. And then, we set them up and tune them in and shoot them and stuff. And the guys went and shot the guns, and it was the most striking contrast.
Wow.
Because this stock geometry didn't hurt; it was manageable. And this one, you pulled the trigger once, you never wanted to shoot it again.
Wow.
And that right there really got my team on board with kind of that design ethos,
Yeah.
and really taught them that. About 5 years ago, we started talking about our negative comb geometries and our toe lines and showing some of these things and teaching people why. And then we've started to see the industry adopt that. So we see the follow along gun companies, that actually do product development. They started incorporating those designs into their stocks, and the stock companies starting to make some offerings that do that. And so you'll see ubiquitous like negative comb geometries everywhere, over the next years.
Yeah. I mean, that's
the nature of things. So unless you
Yes.
patent your idea, and it's a good idea, it will end up everywhere
Well,
else.
that's what I was just going to say. Like early on, we didn't have the money for patents, right? Like I was bootstrapping this thing, just trying to get it off the ground and get it going. But as we've grown as a brand, understanding the importance of patents has really hit home, because we did have a competitor that kind of came out with a trekking pole very similar to ours. And so I was like, man, we can't afford that, right? We have to secure patents on things. And so we started doing that. And what we learned is that actually allows you to kind of pull the curtain back and actually talk about some of the proprietary things that you're doing that has been protected, right? That other people they can't do it.
Perfect example
Yeah.
was that the stock thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as we started talking about it, that was the end.
Yep.
So I think I've clocked about 18 patents,
Wow.
and I'm not sure that we've patented the right stuff.
I'm sure you have.
No, there's always that.
always
Oh,
more.
why did we do this thing?
More.
It's sometimes there's these simple things that are so obvious to you that you don't treat it as proprietary, but it is. It can be.
I think our design, when our designer is conceptualizing things, that's like his number one question. Do you think we can patent this? And I'm like, I don't know. We need to talk to the patent attorney, and he needs to do a search, and we need to see. But it's so important to the survival of a brand. Otherwise, everybody just can knock you off.
Yeah. I feel like knocking a product off, like just a direct copy, that bothers me.
Yeah.
But I think when companies can find inspiration in the improvements and advancements of their competitors and incorporate that ethos, that knowledge, those ideas, and then then build your own idea that maybe leans on that or is directionally part of that. And all of a sudden now you've got this better product. The net effect is the customer is served with better products, better options. And I think there's a fine line between just knocking something off and finding inspiration and doing your own thing.
Yeah, and it forces you to up your game, right?
For sure.
I mean, when somebody else comes out with something that's maybe a little bit better than what you have to react to that, and you've got to build the next best thing.
Yeah.
It's how the industry keeps moving forward, for sure. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I could. Maybe there's a little bit of that going in optics, but in rifle side, I just don't feel that way. I don't develop based on what somebody else does.
Yeah.
It's what do I want to do next?
That's true. Yeah. One of
our biggest risk at Gunworks is that I will screw up so bad that I'll put us out of business.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I operate.
Focus on the way you want it.
I want to do this, and we're doing it. And
yeah,
I've made some pretty big boners. Haven't destroyed us yet, but there's a few of them.
Yeah. We've had that debate internally several times, especially as a young brand. Like, do we really want to go down this path and put a target on our back from another brand, so to speak? But at the end of the day, we're always like, they're going to build their tribe. We're going to build our tribe. We're going to do it our way. And people are going to either appreciate the way we do it, or they're going to appreciate the way somebody else is doing it. But at the end of the day, it's not going to hurt us either way.
I think an acceptance of the market's big and there's room for all of us.
Yeah,
I think that's it's an important way to view. I've worked with companies before that were zero-sum guys. I won't name any names, but they're an optics company.
Gotcha.
And we put a significant investment and effort into creating the smart scope that we launched in 2017 as the PMR. And it did electronics and heads-up display and ballistics, and it rocked the industry that a little pissant company in Wyoming could pull this off. And the one company we were working with was really threatened by the fact that we were doing our own thing and didn't literally walked away from a relationship that was sending them millions of dollars a year. We were spending $3 million a year with these guys.
Wow.
And they just got their panties in a bunch and essentially decided not to work with us because of that competing interest.
Wow.
But then you go to a company like Leopold, and the relationship we have is, hey, you have this patent on this technology. We're kind of exploring a product here. It's like, maybe we can work together on this.
Yeah.
And, here's this rifle scope, and how can we work together on this other project? And meanwhile, we've got a rifle scope thing going, right? An optics thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they're like, yeah, we love working with you guys. And we treat them good, and we do a good job for their brand. And, they don't promote our optics brand.
Yeah.
But they're a great partner in our supply chain. So
it's
that mentality exists in our space a lot.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, we experienced that we were trying to sign on a new partner to promote our brand, and we knew he worked with a couple other brands that had competing products, but we were trying to work with him on products that had zero competition with these other brands. And we got quite a ways down the road, and then all of a sudden we got the phone call. And he said, hey guys, I'm really sorry, but so-and-so said that if I work with you guys, they're going to cancel my contract with them. And I can't afford to lose that contract. And we were like, wait a minute, they don't even have these products that we're asking you to help us promote. And he's like, I know, but they see you as a competitor because you do have this other product that does compete with what they do. And it was sad, I was like, man, I wish the industry would get along better and just embrace the fact that there is enough to go around, and everybody's going to build their own loyal community of customers.
You know what? I think probably there's probably an aspect, if a company gets caught in this cycle of sameness, where where they don't have original thought. They don't have, the product design ethos of, hey, this is what we're doing, and we're doing it because of this reason, and it'll have the confidence to say it'll stand.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe they feel threatened by innovation, or threatened by somebody that's not conforming, and potentially have that, where that maybe that attitude comes from.
I definitely believe that exists.
They realize that they don't have the momentum and the substance to continue to build that brand, and so their approach is to try to prevent somebody else from building.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me too how, like, even big brands that we're like, we shouldn't even threaten them at all, right? Like, when we launched our sleeping bag, there was a couple really big brands that kind of turned the cold shoulder to us a little bit, and I'm like, man, you guys shouldn't even worry about us. We're such a small fish in this big pond. But
but that's not true, because you want to own the whole world. If I know a founder mentality,
of course we do. But the reality is, where we were at as a brand currently, we're not really a huge threat to them. And it was just, I don't know. It's disappointing, I guess. I'd like to see it be different, but it's just not. It's just a reality of what it is, and you just have to move forward.
Well, I think if I had one little tidbit to put here, is I would warn customers off from brands that are like that. It's like, because if the marketplace supports the right behaviors and the brands that behave the right way, right, then I think that we could curtail that. And you can see evidence of that a lot in the space. There was a few years ago, one of our companies we worked with, Hornady, launched a new ballistic solver, and there was a competing company that was very threatened by this and spent a lot of time running down, the product and trying to do some of that type of marketing and perception engineering. And I think as customers, because I'm a customer as well, but when you recognize that type of behavior, we should identify it for what it is, and maybe choose to work with a different brand instead.
Yeah. And, sometimes that tells me I actually need to look at this other product a lot closer.
Yeah, because they're threatened. When they're threatened,
so there must be something good about it that they don't want me to know. I agree 100%.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, very interesting.
So where is your customer base at? Or is this a Western feel flavor?
I mean, primarily we're a Western big game customer. We're focused on the Rocky Mountain states for the most part. Just about in the last year, our headlamp, because it's got such a bright red and green light, non-game spooking color, has really taken hold with the whitetail crowd. And we're starting to see adoption through all those Midwestern type Eastern states that are heavy whitetail states. But primarily most of our products are designed specifically for that Western big game backpack hunter. And so we focus a lot of our efforts on Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, even Washington and Oregon. They're pretty big states for us, actually.
Got some nice mountains.
Yeah.
We always found that California was an absolute stomper for us.
I'm actually surprised at how many sales we do get from California, considering, you don't think of California as a big hunting state.
It is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's in the top 10 for us, but it's probably in the lower end of that top 10.
There was a couple year period where it was our number one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Texas is crushing now. But
Texas, I could imagine Texas being...
But there's just so much money in California, I think.
You bet.
So the model of distribution.
Yeah. We're primarily direct-to-consumer. Probably 70 to 80% is direct-to-consumer. We always wanted to be able to control the narrative around our products. And so we felt like just going straight wholesale right out of the gate would be difficult to control the marketing and the way people talk about our brand and everything like that. So
Yeah, you end up with a handful of big customers, and they end up trying to tell you how to run your business.
correct.
So you do some distribution, any
Yeah.
of the big box stores, or is it all small?
Yeah,
dealers?
actually, we just opened Shields,
What a great
our
store.
biggest store. Yeah, like our biggest big box store.
We crushed with that bipod this last year,
At
and
Shields.
they sold almost 30%.
Wow.
Like unreal numbers.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal for us. I mean, they were really conservative right out of the gate. They're like, we're gonna order a little bit, and we're like, you guys need to like quadruple that order. We know how this is gonna sound, but they were like, no, we're gonna be conservative. And before we ever even launched the first 2 stores, they had inventory on hand. They put it on their website, and they sold it out before they ever even set the displays up in the store. And so, they just kept ordering. Now they're ordering more than we can even supply at this point. But so they're our biggest brick and mortar partner.
Yeah.
But we do work with and two other great partners, Black Ovis and Go Hunt.
Okay. Go Hunt. Those guys
Yeah.
have got it going on.
They've got a great marketing department. I mean, they really know how to speak to their customer, and a real loyal following. Their ecosystem is really impressive.
They've done well for us too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we like
they're
those
great.
guys.
Yep. And then we do a few mom and pop Barney's in
Mhm.
Anchorage, Alaska, those type of kind of
Perfect store for you guys.
strategic
Yep.
mom and pop shops. But primarily we wanted to be a direct to consumer business, just because we really wanted to speak directly to our customer.
I'm a big fan of consumer direct.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with firearms, it doesn't work that well. You can't just ship product to
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah, you're right.
So we do work with some high end shops and try to partner with the right people.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of dealer business.
Yeah.
I think we're probably on the order of 65 to 70% direct.
Okay.
So
So pretty
very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love working right with our customers.
Yeah. It's important.
And I actually really like working with good dealers too. Like
I do too.
Like
I mean,
there's some people that are really impressive in how they run their businesses and
Yeah.
how they work with their customers.
Yeah. We're looking at a couple new dealers for this upcoming year that approached us, and we feel like they're a good fit to our business. But our primary strategy is stay pretty narrow and deep with dealers, and then control the rest of it direct to
Well,
consumer.
going back to product and our responsibility to provide value for our customer,
Yeah.
being consumer direct gives us a lot of opportunity to spend more on our products
Absolutely.
and still be competitive on price. And
Absolutely.
most people, I don't think, that don't run businesses are tuned into this requirement or this cost to distribute.
Yeah.
But it really affects like what you're able to spend
Yeah.
on the actual product itself.
Absolutely. I mean, the margins are just completely different, right? And
Yeah.
so, we're able to invest pretty heavily in a customer service type staff, whereas if we were a wholesale only business, there's no way we could provide that kind of customer service.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, the dynamics of how to organize a business. I mean, we've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
20 years.
It's awesome.
And still haven't figured out how to make money, but
Well,
I've succeeded in not running us out of
Right.
business, but
yeah.
the next
I-
10 years is going to be, how do I make some money out of
I
this
think
thing?
as a founder, like you said, I'm the same way. The first 3 years of our business, I didn't take a single dime out of it. I was just putting every single penny back in. And then after that, it was just like, what's the bare minimum that I need to take out of this? But it's like, it's the lowest thing on the totem pole for me, and probably for you as well. Like making money personally is not what drives me in this business. It's the product side of it, and coming out with products that are new, innovative, disruptive. Like that's what really drives me. And maybe there'll be a payoff at the end. I hope there will be at some point. But right now I'm just like, that's not why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at our Christmas party last night. We filled up a pretty big space.
Nice.
I think we have 106 employees right now.
That's fantastic.
It's nuts. And it's not all production guys. I mean, we have a huge engineering staff.
Nice.
Like our product team is like We're getting some good momentum. I was going to say, though, we've been in business for 20 years. I'm still trying to figure out the organization of the company.
Yeah.
Because the way that you organize it and the people that you put in charge of certain things drives how the business behaves
Yep.
and how you're able to achieve things. I mean,
Absolutely.
I would say that's probably my biggest investment over the last decade is creating an organization.
Yeah.
Right? Because you build this complexity and this cost and this burden, but the outcome is this team
Yeah.
can accomplish some really cool stuff.
And you know, we're on the front end of that, right? Like I'm just now starting to let go of some things. And it's difficult, right? As a founder, you have so much passion about the way every single thing is done that it's hard to turn it loose and let somebody else take the reins. But you know, if you want your business to grow, you have to at some point say, I'm going to put enough trust and faith in this person to take it to that next level and find the right people. That's where we've been really blessed, is that the people we have on board are experts at what they do. And that's really allowed me to have that faith and trust that they're going to actually take it further than I ever could. And over the course of the last year, I've just really witnessed that within our brand, is that these key hires that we made are just doing a way better job than I ever could.
Yeah.
And taking it way further than I'll ever be able to.
If I looking back, if I had to make one change, it would be pay more money
Yeah.
to get more type A people.
Yeah.
Because you could pay them 2 times as much money, but you'll get 3 times
The productivity.
the value.
Yeah, the value and the outcome.
And I think that's something that
Yeah.
looking back, I should have got there faster.
Yeah.
Should have figured it out and got
Yeah.
there faster.
It's hard though when you're, you know, counting pennies every month, right? And you're trying to figure out cash flow.
I'm going
and
to
all-
tell you, you think about making money. I'm 20 years in. The last 3 years, I've actually put more money into the business than what I've taken out.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
No, it's not.
Well, it will. It'll pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah.
It will.
But that investment in organization and team, it really does. And what you'll find like early is that you will rely on your people and
Yeah.
what they're able to produce. And I think systems have to be a focus. And
Yeah.
one of the systems is, you know, what's the plan? Like,
Yeah.
it's very, very hard to do a written plan. And what I've noticed is it's something you have to fight for constantly,
Yeah.
because the written plan ushers in goals and accountability.
Yeah.
And
It's funny you say that. We're just,
and it is our nature to reject that.
yeah.
And so I feel like that operating system that you use, which is a personnel plan, a compensation plan,
Yeah.
a budget,
Yep.
you know, your goals, your marketing plan.
Yeah.
You know, what are we standing for? How are we going to achieve this?
Yeah.
I hired somebody last year who just does project management, and so we just run a project management software, and we've applied this really heavily on our product team, and so we're getting very mature in, you know, our product documentation and our process to bring a product to market, and that project management piece of it's key.
Yeah. It's huge.
And this is a guy, all he does is he just keeps the document updated and keeps everybody on point. And we meet frequently, and it's created an aspect of accountability and visibility into what's going on that's really helped us.
That's incredible. Yeah. That's great advice. I mean, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, right? Like everybody's just trying to help
But it's
out, whatever.
but it's the personalities is what you lean on now.
Yeah.
But that I really feel like that as soon as it starts to get out of control, and you'll I don't know when you'll cross
feel
that
it.
point, but you will feel like you are losing control. That's the point where you need that system in place.
And, you know, we've got one guy on our staff. He's on product, and he's a developer, and he's the one that does all the interaction back and forth with our factory partners and things like that. And he comes from other larger product businesses, and he's got a system that's just dialed.
Good.
And I've witnessed him in action, and I'm like, yeah, we need to apply that across every other aspect of our business,
Yeah.
because I can call him at any time and ask him a question, and he immediately has the answer for me because his system is so dialed and he's so efficient in the
Yep.
way he operates.
And so you're seeing a glimpse of
Yeah.
that. And again, I'm 20 years in. I'm still struggling
Yeah.
to systematize and to create
Yeah.
that and capture that.
It's one of our key. Another one of our key initiatives for 2025 is system. It's on the board already. System optimization.
Do you guys run an ERP?
Kind of. We built one actually ourselves. But we're integrated with Shopify and those kind of things. But I've actually had a lot of companies approaching me about implementing, their off-the-shelf one. But every time I look at them, I'm like, it just doesn't do quite what I want.
What are you doing for accounting?
We have just QuickBooks integration for all of our accounting stuff. Yeah.
So we use a system called Odoo.
Odoo?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they're picking up some steam. I see them actually starting to do some advertising and whatnot. And it's the one that about put me out of business in 2019.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're just getting ready to do our third upgrade. So about every 2 to 3 years, we'll upgrade to the latest version of it. It just takes a long time to.
Do they customize it for you, or is it more like
We started and had them do some things for us, and there was a challenge there. I actually have a full-time person that does development for me now.
Okay.
And that's how we've operated for the past 4 or 5 years. So we do have a lot of customization. So if you look, if we go peel back a layer and you went to the shooting range and you saw the shooting, right? So a big part of our process is we take the gun completed with a scope on it. We take it into the shooting tunnel and we do function testing, performance testing, and then we actually collect data for how the rifle behaves.
Okay.
So we're collecting speed and group size and all these things.
Yeah.
And our ERP system looks into the drive, that we have there, grabs the file that's recorded. It's an Excel file, extracts all the data that we just collected. So now there's this ballistic profile that's attached to each rifle system.
Cool.
And we know what our ammo is that we tested. We know all these parameters about it. And then we have our ballistics integrated into the ERP. So not only does it know what the performance measures were, but it can calculate the ballistic trajectory. And we use that to create an image, which is the ballistic turret.
Sure.
And that gets sent right to the workstation where the laser's at.
Wow.
And they pull it in, put it on there, tells them what part numbers they want, they mark it, goes on the gun, it's done. So that whole system is completely custom.
Yeah.
That we built from scratch to work inside of that
awesome
category. So as you're saying, they don't offer what we want. Well, none of them will.
Yeah. Well, that's what we.
So it has to be configurable, and you have to be able to do the configuration without spending a fortune.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? I mean, luckily I've got a really good buddy who's a programmer, and I know he does me favors, because when he sends me quotes back for things, I'm like, dude, that's way under budget. Yeah. But he's like, hey, that's how much it's going to cost. So I know he's doing me favors, but we focused mainly, because we don't have a lot of the manufacturing and the stuff, the complicated stuff that you guys do, but we focused mainly on building that out on our customer side. Right. So all of our customer interaction stuff is tied into all of our order management systems and emails and even social media and all that kind of stuff, to where it's all centralized. And when somebody emails us, it can go out and grab the order, pull it in. They can see all the history, all the notes, every interaction we've had. So that's primarily where we've focused, is because we don't have a lot of the in-house manufacturing stuff.
Supply chain management is that as your SKU count goes up, and your vendor count goes up.
That's a lot of spreadsheets for us right now.
Yeah, we probably have, I'll bet we're managing at least 4,000 individual parts.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And then I think we were talking about vendors, like there's 1,000 like vendor people that we need to manage. So it can be fairly intense. Yep. But as you're growing, that's one of those technology things that enables a lot.
Yeah. Technology, see, just in the last couple of years, the things we are able to do now that we weren't able to do a couple of years ago just because of advances in technology. I mean, AI is crazy what we're doing in our business with AI, actually. I can't even imagine where it's going to be.
Yeah, the customer facing. So if you can use you can use Shopify, then you can do something like HubSpot or one of the really nice CRMs, and then you can use all these products that are more friendly to outdoor brands versus gun brands.
Yep, exactly.
Acumatica is another one that's coming on pretty strong. That's very interesting. That would plug right into a lot of those tools that you're using. They do accounting and manufacturing and sourcing operations.
Yeah, I'll have to get their contact info.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what else do you want to talk about?
I'm just grateful to be here. When Jason called, I was like, man, again, the timing, I had just gotten done on that hunt, and I was like, yeah, I'm stoked. Like, I was really stoked on your guys' brand. Really excited to be here. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to. I mean, I don't know what you can share, but
I was telling you about this product that we're launching next spring that I snuck in a trigger on.
Yeah, I know.
But it's a chassis.
Oh, really?
So it's an aluminum chassis. So for us, a lot of our skunkworks projects over the years have been built on like chassis systems, and they sell really well. And we've never wanted to build a like product, because most of these chassis all have the same form. There's some center section, there's an AR type grip, there's some type of a buttstock that attaches on the top and a frame.
Right.
So they're very, very similar, and we just maybe didn't have the energy to focus on that. And so we've continued to just use that product in a skunkworks format. So we've worked with like XLR guys, we've worked with MDT and made some really cool
stuff.
Yeah. But finally we got everybody pointed the right way, and we're able to do something that's different. Like we're discussing, what's patentable, what's going to get copied really easily, and what do we want to keep people from maybe being able to make similar. And so that's coming first thing next year. And so we're in the death throes of trying to get the beta pilot run and all that stuff kicked over, and we're making, I think we're probably making 90% of it here. And so like we've got all the challenges of bringing up the manufacturing and writing programs and validating parts, and so that's a big thing that we're on right now. And then as part of that, we updated one of our action models.
Okay.
And so that's going to cascade into all these products next year. It's going to be absolute chaos the entire year.
Really?
With like disruption in our SKU mix and products that we're offering, and I feel sorry for the marketing guys. Actually, there's going to be a big communication lift.
Yeah, marketing guys, they take the brunt of a lot trying to figure out how to make everybody else's mess look good.
Oh, and I make messes, man. I stomp around a lot.
Yeah.
We've got another 78,000 square foot facility on the other side of town.
Jason was telling me about that.
That we've renovated about 30,000 square feet of it, and we're gonna bring the Revic optics guys out of this building, which they're rat-holed in the corner.
Yes.
We're gonna let them expand into that and grow, and that's gonna give us a lot of opportunities there for some vertical integration and growth with new product there.
Wow. So that's a big undertaking.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. No, that's
so
probably